rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. The reverberations from Donald Trump's election as the 45th president of the United States are being felt around the world. A number of Hollywood celebrities are saying they will move out of the country. Many political pundits are decrying the overthrow of the international order that globalists have worked so hard to build since World War II. On the other hand, one politician from Israel is saying that Trump's election heralds the soon coming of the Messiah. One thing is certain, the election of Mr. Trump to lead the world's greatest nation will definitely change things dramatically. What will be the long-term effects of America's election? What will it actually be? We'll talk about it on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, it's hard to take it all in. It's almost like drinking from a fire hydrant. Everything is coming at us so fast. But I think the logical place to begin is Israel. Since the Bible prophesies that America and Israel are locked into a common destiny, and since the Bible prophesies that the United States will not be a part of the one world government of the Antichrist, then I think Israel is a good place to start. An article has appeared. Sanhedrin asked Putin and Trump to build third temple in Jerusalem. Now, this article just appeared today on Breaking Israel News. Let's pause a moment to talk about the Sanhedrin in case you're not familiar with it. The Sanhedrin is that council of 70 plus 1 that was very powerful in Israel back in the days of Jesus Christ. He was brought before the Sanhedrin council to be questioned, as were many of his apostles after him. Well, the Sanhedrin was reborn about 10 or 15 years ago because Israel is moving back to fully reconstruct the nation of Israel as it was before the destruction of Israel by the Romans in 70 AD. So here's what's happening. According to this article, the Sanhedrin is a group of 70 men plus 1 that supposedly rule Israel. They're the people who make the judgments as to what's right, what's wrong. Here's what's happening in this article. The Jewish Sanhedrin has requested that President-elect Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin work together to help rebuild the Jewish temple. The nascent Sanhedrin is calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President elect Donald Trump to join forces and fulfill their biblical mandated roles by rebuilding the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Rabbi Hillel Weiss, spokesman for the Sanhedrin, contacted Breaking Israel News to announce that the election of Trump, who has promised to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, coupled with Putin's expressed desire for the temple to be rebuilt, prompted the Jewish court to send a letter offering the two the opportunity to act as modern-day Cyrus figures, non-Jewish kings who recognize the importance of Israel and the temple. Cyrus the Great, king of Persia in the 6th century BC, announced in the first year of his reign that he was prompted by God to make a decree that the temple in Jerusalem should be rebuilt. The scripture goes something like this. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia. All the kingdoms of the earth hath God, the God of heaven, given me. And he hath charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Now that scripture comes from Ezra 1 verse 2. Here's what actually happened. Cyrus sent the Jews under his rule back to Israel with a considerable sum of money with which to rebuild the temple. The Sanhedrin plans to call on the two world leaders, Putin and Trump, to take up this ancient biblical decree and support the Jewish people in their holy mission. Now, I want us to pause here for just a moment, because already over the last several months, we've heard a lot of people say that they believe that Donald Trump is a modern day Cyrus. My wife, she has said that to me repeatedly, because he has openly said he will move the the U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, which of course American law mandates that he do, unless he chooses to exercise a waiver, which they built into the law. Well, Trump has openly said, I will move the embassy to Jerusalem. So now the Jewish Sanhedrin, which is very much involved in preparing for the building of Israel's third temple, oh, by the way, which is prophesied in the Bible, it is going to happen. But now the election of Donald Trump is causing the Sanhedrin to say, Trump and Putin together as the head of the world's two nuclear superpowers could use their influence to bring this about. And they sent them a letter actually requesting that they would do so. You talk about mixing prophecy with world events. It doesn't get any better than this. Now, Rabbi Weiss explained that the U.S. elections have made the eternal Jewish dream a very real possibility. We are poised to rebuild the temple. The political conditions today in which the two most important national leaders in the world support the Jewish right to Jerusalem as their spiritual inheritance is historically unprecedented, Rabbi Weiss told Breaking Israel News. The Sanhedrin's letter notes that Trump's upset victory was due to his support of Jerusalem and reminds Trump of his campaign promise to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, effectively recognizing the city as the capital of Israel. The Jerusalem Embassy Act, passed in Congress in 1995, initiated the moving of the embassy, but has been vetoed by every American president since. The Sanhedrin calls on Trump to withhold the veto after he takes office. Let's pause there just a moment. Just to remind you, the U.S. Congress passed a law in 1995 that America should move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, recognizing Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. However, they built into this law a waiver if the president, from his privileged position, judged that it would threaten national security for him to take this step. He had the right to appear before Congress every 6 months and request a waiver. Well, since 1995, every president has in fact done that. Whether it was Republicans or Democrats, they've appeared before Congress requesting the waiver every 6 months, every June, every November. Now, the November waiver is due right now, so I'm sure that President Obama is going to once again ask for the waiver. But when the next waiver date comes up, June of 2017, Mr. Donald Trump will be our president. He has made a big deal of moving the embassy to Jerusalem. The world is going to be waiting and watching when that waiver time comes up to see if he asks for the waiver or if he moves to transfer our embassy to Jerusalem. Ladies and gentlemen, Do you realize the stakes here? Do you understand the forces that suddenly have shifted in our world with the election of Donald Trump, especially where it concerns the nation of Israel? Donald Trump's close associates are saying that Trump will be the most pro-Israeli president in the history of the modern state of Israel. Now, beyond that, though, Trump has said that he would love a chance to negotiate a peace agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. And Israelis would like to have a peace agreement. And Palestinians, do they want a peace agreement? Well, that's up for debate. Many people believe the only peace agreement they want is one that will totally eradicate Israel from the map. We'll see about that. Nevertheless, there's going to be a peace agreement. It looks like we're approaching the time for that agreement right now. You talk about living in prophetic times. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about this article. The Sanhedrin also recalled Putin's connection to the temple in its letter. During his third official trip to Jerusalem in 2012, Putin paid a late-night visit to the Kotel, which is a name for the Western Wall. When he arrived at the holy site, the Russian leader stood in silence for several minutes, offering up a personal prayer, after which he read Psalms from a Russian Hebrew prayer book. An Israeli bystander called out in Russian, "Welcome, President Putin." Putin approached the man, who explained the importance of the Temple Mount and the Jewish temple. This man, an Orthodox Hebrew news site, reported that Putin responded, "That's exactly the reason I came here, to pray for the temple to be built again." Are you listening to this? According to this news site, Putin said, "I'm here to pray that the temple will be built." So if you've got Putin wanting to rebuild the temple, you've got Trump wanting to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and you got the Bible prophesying that the temple will soon be built. Wow. What incredible days we're living in. Now, the article goes on to say, after this remarkable exchange, the Sanhedrin sent a letter to Putin calling on him to fulfill his prayer. At the time, President Putin did not respond to the Sanhedrin's request. But now that the incoming U.S. president is a potential ally in the project, the Sanhedrin believes it is time for Putin to take an active role in rebuilding the temple. Oh, we got to stop one more time. Because remember, it's been, 2 months ago that Putin issued an invitation to Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinians to come to Moscow to negotiate a deal, saying that he would preside over these negotiations. And both accepted, but then nothing has happened. Wouldn't it be something if Putin and Trump and Netanyahu and Abbas sat down at the table and negotiated a deal? I'm talking about the peace deal prophesied in the Bible. The Bible says when that deal is struck, it marks the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. And during the first 3.5 years of that deal, the Jewish temple will be rebuilt. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. I was just in the Temple Institute last week. And in the Temple Institute, they've got all the furniture ready. I'm not talking about replicas. I'm talking about the very items. I saw them with my own eyes. They've got the altar where the sacrifice is to be made of the animals. They've got the basin to catch the blood from the sacrifice. They have the basin, the laver where the priests are to wash before they go into the holy place. Going into the holy place, they have the candlestick where the oil supplies the fuel and the wicks are there for the lights, and it's the only light in the holy place. Then they've got the other two pieces of furniture, the table of shewbread, the altar of incense. and I guess more dramatic than anything else, they now have the Ark of the Covenant newly built. They have all the pieces. They're in place today. And now this. Wow. What momentous times. Are we in the end time right now? You better believe we are. I'm not telling you the end time is coming. I'm telling you, you and I are living in the end time right now. If you don't believe it, I challenge you to get our newest series, From Here to Armageddon. This series includes a very clear timeline showing the events that will happen between now and the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus. And it shows them in order. I have so many people, when they see that timeline, they say, let me take a picture of that. Or, could you give me a copy of that? Because the Bible is crystal clear as to what is coming. And God doesn't want you and me to be in the darkness. If you have not yet received your own copy of the 8-lesson series, it's our newest production, From Here to Armageddon. Order it right now. The number to call is 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. From today to Armageddon, what's going to happen? Step by step by step by step. And oh, here's the best thing about it. We don't stop there. We tell you what to do about it. We talk about how all these events, yes, they're going to be used by Satan in a negative way, but they're going to be used by God in a positive way. The Bible prophesies the greatest revival the world has ever known. Now, even while most of religion is going into apostasy and declension, yet the true Church of Jesus Christ is moving into ascendancy and revival. I want to be a part of that revival, don't you? Anyway, the series is called From Here to Armageddon. The number to call to receive your own copy, 1-800-END-TIME. 8 lessons. I think you're going to be absolutely thrilled, exhilarated, excited by this new series, because it's going to really allow you to get a handle on, okay, here we are, and everything that happens as it develops, you're going to watch it happen, just like these events today. Now, let's continue on with our article. In addition to its request concerning the temple, the Sanhedrin is also calling on Putin and Trump to renew the 1920 League of Nations resolution known as the San Remo Treaty, which essentially enabled the creation of a Jewish state by dividing the Ottoman Empire. It incorporated the Balfour Declaration. Now, this is after World War I, issued by Great Britain in 1917, which gave official recognition and backing for the establishment of the nation of Israel. U.S. President Calvin Coolidge ratified the San Remo Agreement in 1925, thus making recognition of a Jewish state legally binding by U.S. law. The Sanhedrin emphasized that it is imperative at this time, when the Palestinian Authority is attempting to rewrite world history by campaigning against the Balfour Declaration, to strengthen the historic American commitment to the State of Israel by readopting the agreement. Rabbi Weiss emphasized that supporting the Jewish claim to Jerusalem would bring benefit to Russia and America, as well as the entire world. The leaders of Russia and America can lead the nations of the world to global peace through building the temple, the source of peace, Rabbi Weiss explained. This will offset the disgraceful UNESCO resolutions that are the root cause of increasing terror violence. These are the resolutions just passed by UNESCO. Last month, the United Nations Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Organization, that's what UNESCO stands for, passed 2 resolutions denying any connection between the city of Jerusalem and the Jewish people, ceding to Islam a religious monopoly on many of Judaism's holiest sites. Wow. So the struggle is on. It's going to result in a sharing of the Temple Mount. The Bible prophesies it explicitly. So here we have Putin, we have Trump, we have the Sanhedrin. Everybody calling for a settlement. Could this be the way it's going to happen? Well, we'll have to wait and see for all this. Interesting times. Let me pause just a moment to make sure you know about conferences that will be held this weekend. I will be in Orange County speaking on America's God-given destiny. How appropriate is that right now? I'll be at the Spirit and Truth Worship Center, 4700 East Walnut Avenue in Orange, California. That's November the 11th, 7:30 p.m. Be there with me, California, and all the surrounding areas. Also, Dave Robbins, right here on End of the Age. He's going to be in Sherman, Texas, also this coming Friday evening, November the 11th at 7:30. He's going to be at the Apostolic Pentecostal Church, 5525 North Travis in Sherman, Texas. I'd love to see you all go out there. You're going to enjoy hearing Dave talk to you on the subject from here to Armageddon. Now, he won't be teaching the entire series, of course. He's going to be teaching the first lesson. And then he'll have the series there for you to purchase if you'd like to have that for yourself. Also, on Saturday evening in Paris, California, I'm going to be speaking on that subject from here to Armageddon. I will be at the Sanctuary, 3845 Paris Boulevard in Paris, California. And then on Sunday morning at 10 a.m., I'll be speaking on breaking prophetic fulfillments. What's really happening right now, prophetically. That's at 10 a.m. Again, it's in the Sanctuary, 3845 Paris Boulevard, Paris, California. And that will be followed by a time of question and answers from the floor. You're going to get to ask. And this has become one of the most popular things we've ever done. People are loving it. So it's going to be a great time. I mean, the questions come from everywhere. I answer them if I possibly can. If I cannot answer them, I say I don't know. But we don't have to say that much because most things have become crystal clear. Wow, so much material. I am not sure how much time we have left. I'll tell you what, let's do though. Let me give you a little bit more. This particular article comes from Trump's close advisor. He says West Bank settlements are not an obstacle to peace. This appeared in the Jerusalem Post today. President-elect Donald Trump does not condemn Jewish building over the pre-1967 lines, nor does he believe in dictating the terms of any peace deal between Israelis and Palestinians. A close legal advisor, Jason Greenblatt, told Army Radio on Thursday morning. Now, Jason Greenblatt is one of Donald Trump's advisors on the Middle East. Mr. Trump does not view the settlements as being an obstacle for peace, Greenblatt said. The argument goes something like this. Hey, listen, there were no settlements prior to 1967. From 48 to 67, the Jews wanted peace. The Palestinians said no, no, no. And there were no settlements. Now they're saying there would be peace if it wasn't for the settlements. Makes no sense, of course. The article goes on to say that he described a U.S. policy with regard to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that is 180 degrees different from that of past administrations, either Democrat or Republican. We're talking about 180 degrees. We are going through a seismic shift right now as a result of the election of Mr. Donald Trump. And biblically, it's going to be a good shift because the Bible prophesies what's going to happen to America and Israel, and it lines up perfectly with what Donald Trump is saying in his statements concerning the Middle East. Now, Trump's views come from the past example of the 2005 Israeli demolition of 21 settlements in Gaza and 4 in northern Samaria. That withdrawal did not bring peace. Remember that? 2005? 9,000 people were picked up kicking and screaming, hauled out of their homes because Ariel Sharon thought that would give peace. Did it? No. All it brought was more rockets, more bombings. That withdrawal did not bring peace, but rather was a precursor to a Hamas takeover of Gaza and 3 wars with Israel. The two sides are going to have to decide how to deal with that region, but it's certainly not Mr. Trump's view that settlement activity should be condemned and that it's an obstacle for peace, because it is not the obstacle for peace. He is not going to impose any solution on Israel. He thinks that the peace has to come from the parties themselves. Any meaningful contribution he can offer up, he's there to do. It is not his goal, nor should it be anyone else's goal, to impose peace on the parties, said Greenblatt. Now remember, France wants to impose a peace through the United Nations. The article goes on to say, with regard to Israel's larger security issues, Greenblatt said that the newly elected president thinks that Israel is in a very tough situation and needs to defend itself as it needs to be able to defend itself because of the situation. Okay, well, on and on the thing goes, but we're quickly running out of time. Let me pause right now to say to all of you out there, the pace is picking up. Things have changed dramatically. If you're not yet a partner with End Time Ministries, we need you now more than ever. We're moving forward with plans to participate in the prophecies that are coming to pass. We've foreseen the fall of the Berlin Wall, the reunification of Germany, said that that would be the beginning of the New World Order. It's turned out to be exactly that way. Well, we see a lot clearer now. We're also planning on taking 1,000 people to Israel to knock on every door in Judea, Samaria, every Jewish door, to warn them of the coming catastrophe. We're going to do that shortly before the abomination of desolation, which will occur halfway through the final 7-year period. If you'd like to be a part of that 1,000, call us, give us your name, your address, your email address. We'll put you on the list. We'll contact you when it's time to go. What exciting times we live in. But if you're not yet a partner, do that one today. The number to call, 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. And don't forget the series From Here to Armageddon.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like, how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
I know someone's praying for you can be cliche, and some might think that it's just a saying. But here at End Time Ministries, we actually are praying for you. Irvin and the End Time team begin each morning by taking your name directly to the Lord in prayer for our partners and requests submitted by each of you the previous day. The Bible tells us in Matthew 18, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst. We may not know each of you personally, but we feel like we are very much connected because you are one of the reasons that this ministry is able to spread our message throughout the entire world. We know this can be a very difficult time for everyone. That makes you partnering with us through prayer and your giving very special. Call 1-800-END-TIME or go to endtime.com and partner with End Time today. You can help make a world impact.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the Watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the Archives button.
We are taking your calls in this segment of our program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. To reach our operators, the number is 800-END-TIME. But it's 877-END-TIME to be with me. Just before we go to the phones, let me remind you this one statement. For the first time since before World War II, Americans chose a president who promised to reverse the internationalism practiced by predecessors of both parties. Both parties, this comes from the New York Times, by the way, both parties have been moving us toward internationalism, both Republican and Democrat, everybody that's in the establishment, they've been moving toward this one world government, this internationalism. Now then, we've chosen one who promises to slam the door on that and to move America back toward a sovereign nation. Interesting. Let's get to the phones right now. I want to go to Eva, first of all, calling from Pennsylvania, the state that sealed the deal for Donald Trump. Hello, Eva.
Hello, Pastor Baxter. I'm apologizing ahead of time if I'm running in circles or giving you something wrong to think about. But I had something pop up on one of my posts about faithless electors and that they're meeting on December 19th and that they could overturn the election. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to take your answer off the air, and I'll be praying for you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Eva. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I have heard nothing of it. I don't foresee anyone that could overturn this election. It's already a sealed deal. Hillary has acceded. She has conceded the election. Trump has already been to the White House this morning to be with President Obama to start the transfer of power. I really think that that's an off-the-wall report from somewhere with no validity to it, unless I see something major. I mean, all the major news media would be screaming this from the housetop right now if that truly were happening. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go now to Minnesota. John is calling. Hello, John.
Yes. Good evening, Irvin.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. Beautiful day here in Minnesota.
Good.
I just had a question about the establishment. I was wondering, it seems to me that treason is not a word to be used in this country anymore. And my second question is, Donald Trump, I fear for his safety. I was wondering what you had to say about that.
Well, John, when you use the word treason, of course, that has all kinds of criminal connotations. And many people would say that anybody who purposely does not enforce the laws of the United States of America and encourages foreign elements to come in, some people would say that's treason. Now, we're too far gone probably for anyone to seriously enforce that. However, we may see all of that reversed and restored, a level of sanity be restored. So we may see that particular term take on real meaning again like it used to be. So, John, are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, give me the second part of your question once again.
Oh, Mr. Trump, I fear for his safety being going against the establishment.
Well, obviously, there are many people that are adamant against Donald Trump, and there's always the danger of an assassination attempt. We hate to even think about it. As much as I was opposed to the administration of President Obama, in no way would I ever favor or I would be adamantly opposed to assassination. We simply cannot go into barbarism. It is not right. But to say that there's not people out there that would like to have killed President Obama and there are people out there that would like to kill Donald Trump, of course there are. That's the reason we have the Secret Service. As I was watching some of the proceedings, everywhere Mr. Trump went, there were Secret Service behind him, there were Secret Service in front of him, because there are elements out there that would be willing to do something radical. And it only takes one person, of course. So we hope we don't even have to consider that. But yes, it certainly is a possibility, because Donald Trump, more than anybody else in a long time, is a threat to the establishment. The establishment are those people that had gained control of both the Republican and the Democratic Party. Mr. Trump has apparently broken that control over the Republican Party now. And because of that, they would like to reverse it. I think the cat's out of the bag. Even if they assassinated him, then probably Mike Pence would pick up the banner and carry it, because Mike Pence, he also understands all these things. Is he the strong leader that Donald Trump is? I'm not sure that he is, but yet he can be a strong leader anyway. Hopefully we don't even have to discuss this, but I do understand you. I hear you very clear, John, and I understand your concerns.
Well, thank you very much, and I encourage the American people and everybody listening to pray for our president.
And we have been doing that here at End Time Ministries. I was doing it before President-elect Trump was elected. We've been praying for our leaders. We believe that's a mandate from Scripture that we should do that. We've been doing that. But now then, more than ever, pray that God will give this man wisdom, understanding. Did you notice, if you were watching, when the votes finally came in and when Mr. Trump was going to give his acceptance speech, he had Mike Pence speak first of all. And Mike, first thing he did was give honor to God. And then he brought up the chairman of the Republican committee, Mr. Reince Priebus, and the first thing he did was thank God. And then he mentioned it again. He only spoke for a minute or so. But I am so thankful to see these people that are giving glory to God, the people that Mr. Donald Trump has surrounded himself with, and I hope that they have a positive impact on Donald Trump himself. So, very interesting. Okay, let's get right back to the phones, and let's go to Eileen calling from New Jersey. Hello, Eileen.
Hi, how are you? I am a Christian. I am a conservative, and unlike many of your listeners, and I've talked to you about this before, to me, this election is evidence of a coarsening in our culture, and I am troubled by this man, and I'm so sorry to say that, and I've tried to pray about it. But you spoke yesterday of accountability and truthfulness, and as a person myself who has been abused, if we find out that Donald Trump has abused women, should he be held accountable? What should happen to Donald Trump if he was not truthful?
Well, if he abused women against their will, that's a crime. And
he has been accused of that.
He has been accused, apparently 11 years after the fact or later.
And we've heard audio of him.
Well, he definitely
in the most vulgar terms, and I just don't get it, Pastor. I don't get why we've lowered our standards. There were so many great candidates. Is this really the best we could do?
Well, Eileen, here's the one thing, and I understand exactly what you're saying. His language on that tape was vulgar. That was 11 years ago.
He was 60, though. He was a grown man.
Right. I'm not making any excuses for it. He was 59, but that's 60. You're absolutely right. That was true. Now, the question is, I've heard President Obama use very vulgar language, only he doesn't do it quite as publicly, or at least it hasn't been played publicly. I have heard Vice President Biden use very vulgar language. And so a lot of the politicians do this. Does that mean it's right? No, it's not. So,
vis-a-vis when it comes to taking advantage of women. And I don't know. I just recoil at that.
Well,
it's hard to engender respect for this man. I'm very sorry.
Well, there's no excuse.
I wish I could.
Eileen, there's no excuse for
but
it.
I don't see it, and he seems insincere to me.
Well,
because you don't get to be 59 years old and continue that. They say it's locker room talk. That's someone, in my estimation, who doesn't put Jesus Christ first.
Well, let's face it, Eileen. Donald Trump was not a Christian then. I don't know that he's a Christian now. We're not speaking of him as a religious leader. We're talking about a political leader here. What are the issues involved? Both of these people, Hillary and Trump. Now, there's much evidence that Hillary is a serial liar. Now, Trump, has he lied? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether he's been totally honest with us or not. But Hillary is a serial liar. So we were faced with a choice here. And the only thing, and I said it on this program, we've got to deal with the issues. Now, God is a judge, but the issues in this campaign were, will we go into a world government or will we retain national sovereignty? Will we be for abortion? Will we be against abortion? Those are the issues that it boiled down to. Now, in fairness to Donald Trump, the other 16 members that tried to become the Republican nominee, most of them, not all, most of them were for one world government. They were for globalism. They were for globalization, which would end the sovereignty of the United States of America. So I think the big question is, could God raise up a heathen leader? And I'm not calling Donald Trump a heathen, but I'm just simply saying, in the Bible, we have an account of Cyrus, who was the head of a heathen nation, the Persian nation, who ended up being used by God to give the order for the Jews to be able to return to Israel and to build their temple back. Could God do that type of a thing again? Some people think that's what we're witnessing right now. I don't know whether it's going to turn out that way or not, but I do know this. The Bible prophesies that America will not be a part of the one world government. So this election is at least going to help that be fulfilled. And the Bible prophesies that America is going to be the best friend that Israel's got in these end times. Now, Donald Trump hasn't done that yet. He says he will do it. If he does those two things, whether he is a heathen or whatever he may be, then he will have been used by God to fulfill those things. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Well, I guess you're right. Which of the 16 was not for globalism other than Trump?
Maybe Mike Huckabee.
What a decent, good man. I
Mike Huckabee, I do think Mike Huckabee is a fine man.
And I would have been proud to cast my vote for him.
Yeah.
And I voted for neither of the primary candidates, by the way.
Well, listen, Eileen, I got to let you go. Thank you for your input. We appreciate it very much. And you've got a lot of truth about what you're saying. God help us all to go to our knees. And hopefully God is doing something in our midst right now. You're listening to The Age. We've got another full segment to go. All of you that are on hold, I'm going to try to get to each one of you. Stay right there where you are. We'll be back.
If ever people need to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for End Time Magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will really impact your life. End Time has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that End Time Magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine did in my life. Call 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME and get your subscription today.
Well, we're going to take one more question concerning the election, and there are some other things on the board I want to get to as well. Let's go right now to Johnny calling from Tennessee. Hello, Johnny.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Yeah, what's on your mind, Johnny?
Yes, sir. This is something that I'm trying to confirm, but I heard that the establishment, either from the Democrats or from the Republicans, are trying to talk behind closed doors with people close to Donald Trump. And I don't know if they talk to him directly, but they're trying to convince him not to go after Hillary Clinton and, Bill Clinton and others like in the State Department, this guy Patrick Kennedy and all that, and what they did with the IRS and the Justice Department and all that. And I don't know if this is a good idea because of, Donald Trump promised change, and if he doesn't, do anything about what she did, then he's going to let down millions of people, and if he tries to run for president a second time, I don't think he's going to, make it. So,
yeah, well, Johnny, I don't know for sure what's going to happen. I know there's going to be a lot of pressure on Barack Obama to pardon Hillary Clinton. I don't know whether he would do that or not. We do know that Gerald Ford pardoned President Nixon because he felt like it was in the best part, the interest of the nation to not be drugged through several years of trials of this man, that it would divert the nation and keep us fixated on a very negative thing. I don't know whether the same kind of logic might happen with Barack Obama. If he would pardon Hillary Clinton, then of course that would take it off the table completely. I would hate to see us drugged through trials for months and years. At the same time, like you mentioned, Johnny, right is right and wrong is wrong. And if there are true crimes that have been committed, it's wrong to have one set of laws for the privileged and another set of laws for the average person. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, but Hillary Clinton has not been convicted of anything. Richard Nixon was convicted. She hasn't been convicted. So how can Obama has the excuse of pardoning her?
Actually, it's my understanding that he does have the ability to pardon her for anything that has been done or she would be proven of later to have been done. It's my understanding he could do that. I'm not saying that he will. I simply don't know the answer to that. But we'll see what happens.
Right. Do you think if he goes ahead and do that, do you think that would be the end of the Democrats?
Probably not, because there's a lot of people, everybody that voted for Hillary would probably be in favor of it, and half the nation voted for her. So I don't think it'll be the end of the Democrats. No, I don't. But if God will help Donald Trump to do what's right, I believe that his popularity will increase and he would be swept into a second term. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Gotta let you go, Johnny. Thank you very much for the phone call. Let's go now to Robert. Been on hold for a while, Robert, right here in Texas.
Hello, Irvin.
What's on your mind?
Got a question for you. We're going to recognize, obviously, the Sixth Trumpet War and what goes on there with that. My question is regarding the next thing that happens, Revelation 12, the war in heaven. Will there be bits of that we'll understand or know what's going on or not?
Well, the thing is, Robert, we know exactly when that's going to happen. That's going to happen at the halfway mark, 3.5 years after the signing of the peace agreement. And also, when it happens, that's going to trigger the Antichrist standing on the Temple Mount, committing the abomination of desolation. Both of these events happen at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. Many people believe that when the war in heaven takes place and Satan is suddenly confined to the earth, that he will personally inhabit the Antichrist. And that's the reason all of a sudden the Great Tribulation will ensue. So we're going to know exactly when it's going to happen. I think people who are sensitive to spiritual things will probably feel it happen in the spirit world. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we will know when it's going to happen, and we're going to see the effects of it.
Very good. Thanks, Irvin.
Okay, thank you, Robert. And let's go now to Gary calling from right here in Texas. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Irvin. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
My question is with the election, do you think that affects the timing of the Sixth Trumpet War on God's prophetic timeline? And which event do you think occurs first, the war or the peace agreement?
You know, Gary, I've been wrestling with that question for several years. The Bible doesn't answer that specifically. The Bible tells us that the war must happen before the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. It could happen before the 7 years begins, or it could happen in the first 3.5 years of the 7-year period. I simply do not know. I've always leaned towards the war happening before they finally get a peace agreement. If so, this war, it could come at us at any moment. And since they're fighting up and down the Euphrates right now, we could be in that war right now. But if we are, it's going to have to escalate dramatically. We're just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. And all of us are really wondering about that. Okay. Let's go now to Anita calling from Canada. Hello, Anita.
Hello.
What's on your mind, Anita?
Oh, hello. Hope you're well, and thank you for taking my call.
Welcome.
Thanks. So, obviously, leading up to the election online, people have been arguing back and forth, and it's been an awful experience. And I sort of tried to argue that for the biblical reasons for voting for Trump, as did others. And I was met with a question that I couldn't answer. And I'm just wondering, I don't know, perhaps you could answer it.
Okay.
And it was a simple question, but it kind of shook me, and it was about when God put the tree of knowledge in the center of the garden, and whether or not he knew if Adam and Eve would take that temptation. If he didn't know, then he's not all-knowing, and if he did know, then he set his people up for eternal failure. I couldn't answer it, and I'm wondering if you could help me answer that question.
Yeah, I can answer it, Anita. I wrestled with that question for 10 years myself. But
Thank
I do
you.
believe God gave me an answer. Just because God foreknows something does not mean he makes it happen. Foreknowledge and predestination are two different things. God can foreknow something. Let me give you the example. Let's say that you're sitting on top of a hill. There's a highway that goes around that hill. You see two cars coming from one direction, one is passing the other, and you see a semi coming from the other direction. You are able, sitting on the hill, to foreknow there's going to be an accident. But you did not make that accident happen. Now that's foreknowledge. But that's not predestination.
That's a very interesting answer. Thank you very much. I'm not sure it would satisfy some of the people that put me through what they did as I attempted to answer it, because really, given that answer, God also would have seen those two pieces of traffic coming. He might have even directed them. He does know all. I'm led to believe that. And if he did know all, why on earth would he leave his people make such a terrible soul burning and soul scorching? It's such an important mistake.
Well, because he cherishes free will.
Free will.
And when he foreknows something, that doesn't mean he made it happen. The Bible says he knows the end from the beginning. And so the Bible does say, whom he foreknew, he did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son. But he did not predestinate us before he foreknew it. He watched the whole scenario. He's able to go to the end, the beginning, because he does not dwell in time. He dwells in eternity. So he knows the end from the beginning. He knows everything that's going to happen. But he only knows what happened as a result of our free will, not because he made it happen. He cherishes free will because he is making up a bride that will be faithful to him throughout eternity of her own free will. And that's the reason free will is so important to God. Each of us choose who we're going to serve. And when we choose, then once justice is done in every case, and he says, okay, it is good, so be it. He predestinates it only according to foreknowledge. Whom he did foreknow, he did predestinate. That's what the scripture says.
Oh, I'm not as smart as you, obviously, and I'm so sorry, but I don't understand that at all. I still find that confusing.
Well, just don't forget the example. You're sitting on a hill, and you foreknow an accident's going to happen. You had nothing to do with making that accident happen, but you foreknew it.
But if you knew the accident could happen, or was going to happen, would you not stop it? Especially if it meant your soul was in eternal danger?
Again, God does not interfere with our free choices. He does not interfere for you to marry the wrong person. Now, if you seek His face with all of your heart, then the Bible says, in all your ways acknowledge the Lord and He will direct your paths. But most of the world doesn't live that way. Most of the world does what they want to do, and consequently, the world is full of disasters. That means God needs to stop all of these disasters, but He has not done that. But He has given us the ability to tap into Him and to live an exceptional life because we do stay within the confines of His will. Well, this is a big, big subject. We could discuss this for hours, Anita. I got to let you go. But nevertheless, think about it, pray about it. That helped me. Okay, thank you. Let me see. Do we have time? I'm afraid we don't. We have to pick this back up tomorrow. Thank all of you for participating on the program today. But I do want to take time to talk to you. I feel like everything just speeded up. Now, already we were on track. I was debating. Everybody was asking me, what do you see from the standpoint of biblical prophecy? My reply was this. I know what's going to happen. America is not going to be a part of the world government. We are going to end up defending Israel against the world government. I just don't know whether it's time to turn it around now or later. Will Hillary, who favors globalization, be able to pull us further and further toward world government before it's turned around? Or will it happen now? It looks like to me that it happened right now. Now, let me tell you, I'm not trusting in Donald Trump as my savior. We're going to have great revival no matter whether Donald Trump does exactly the opposite of everything he said he will do. I hope that doesn't happen. Of course, I don't believe it's going to happen. But if it does, it doesn't make any difference because politics does not determine the course of God's people. So regardless of what happened, whether Trump works out or not, we're still going to have great revival and God is still on the throne. So what I'm saying to all of you out there, we have to reach this world. It's wonderful to know the prophecies and know what's coming, but most of the world doesn't know. We're in the business of reaching the world through television, through radio, through the internet, through conferences, every way. We'd love for you to help us. Become a partner with End Time Ministries. Let's double our strength. We're running out of time. We got to get it done now. If you're not yet a partner, become a partner. If it's for a small amount, become a partner. The number to call, 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463.
End of the Age is a production of End Time Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. End Time Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.